Welcome to Butterflies of Wisdom, everyone. First, I would love to somehow make this public announcement. How I found out that lovely financial aid from the United States government got hacked was through a podcast. Well, what does that mean to all of us, including myself, that is applying for financial aid, especially if you're a college freshman, younger than me, in this upcoming May? All that means is you just have to take a little bit of time. They will not pull it off your taxes anymore because the hackers won't allow it. So I just wanted to let you guys know that if you're filling out FAFSA, just be really careful with those numbers off the taxes. But enough of my public announcement. I say we because my partner in crime, Mel, and I are going to talk about branding and podcasting, and we're just doing fun stuff with our podcast mini episodes here. So the first thing, okay, you got the RSS feed, you decided on a fancy logo, and now you have to start getting it out there and having people understand that you have a podcast. Now, let's go back to the naming. You want it something to be easy to remember, because half the time my podcast goes by its code name, which is BOW, BOW, which Butterflies of Wisdom. Half the time my other podcast, which Mel's helping me with, Wisdom of Fashion, will go by its code name too. So basically why I'm saying that is when we present these things, we present these things in their full names. But half the time it goes by its code name and people can't remember what they just said. I've heard myself spoken on as a podcast, and they go, I think she does Butterflies of Wisdom. Yeah, and that's the last one I got. I think she does Butterflies of Wisdom, and I'm like, you guys, I am out there in the pod space of Butterflies of Wisdom, but I don't like it when people add in, I think. So you want to make it easy to remember, and you want to make your logo stand out. As I said, I'm dealing with two graphic designers right now, and I'm also, and that's what I'm telling them, because I may be picking up another podcast as we speak with another co-host, because I want to share more knowledge on cerebral palsy. But yeah, people think I'm nuts for picking up all this podcasting work, but I'm not nuts. I'm just educating people on cerebral palsy. But at the same time, I'm trying to brand myself in my field as an expert on cerebral palsy. So you want to make your podcast logo stand out, and you want to make the name easy to remember. Doing it all over again, I wish I made my name easy to remember, because there's so many podcasts out there on self-help, not so much disabilities, but self-help. My God, there's so many podcasts. So if I had to start all over again, I would make it easy to remember, and I wouldn't make it a self-help podcast necessarily strictly disabilities. But oh well, I learned my lesson, and I learned it the hard way. So does that make sense to you, Mel, what I just said?
It absolutely does, because, and putting together my own podcast and then the one I'm going to do with Rebecca Price, the more I think about it, boy, I got to really condense the name of the podcast, first and foremost. I do have another logo in mind, and yes, it needs to stand out. But the simplicity of it all really does make sense. I mean, there's got to be just a gazillion self-help ones out there. Now, your content, of course, is going to set you apart, but the attention span of the average person is very limited. So if you're not catching them right off the top, visually and phrase-wise right away, you could be overlooked, right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Someone, and I tell you who she is, she's my book editor, asked me, why did you quit blogging? And I'm like, because people don't have the time to read blogs, but they're the same thing. There's a sea of blogs out there, and the average person only has 5 minutes to read, let's say, the New York Times on their phone. Half the time, they're subscribing to these national newspapers on their phone, and half the time they had CNN alerts set up on their phone, because half the time we're on the go so much, including myself. So you got to make it stand out, and you got to make it catchy, and you got to make it easy to remember.
So now, I think you said that you used the initials of Butterflies of Wisdom as an acronym, right? Kind of,
yeah.
As a remembrance. So what are we doing for Wisdom of Fashion? Is it WOF, or help me understand what our process. The same thing. Okay.
WOF.
All right.
The same.
Yeah.
WOF, but WOF is doing Wisdom of Fashion, which, by the way, you guys, WOF launches into the podcast space tomorrow. We have our first real episode of that, so I hope you guys enjoy that. Mel got that one for me, which I really appreciate. And so it's going to be known by its acronym, and WOF actually stands out more than Butterflies of Wisdom. I think that part of Apple's podcast catching app, they do the same background as your cover artwork. So Butterflies of Wisdom is a black. So now a black page comes up with white writing on top of it. Wisdom of Fashion is red. So I just looked at the Apple podcasting catching app, the Apple listening app. So we may just have to change the background slightly so it stands out more, because, as we said, there's a sea of podcasts, but not so many on fashion. There's more of self-help than fashion.
Yeah, I could see that, and I'm really excited about it, actually. Ellen Mayer from Moxie Threads is going to be on board with us tomorrow. I've known her for years. She was a former coaching client of mine, and she ventured on and opened up her own fashion store, and just a wonderful person. So I'm looking forward to her coming on board with us tomorrow. I think we're going to get a lot of value out of it, for sure. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that, too, because, quite frankly, this is something I've been dreaming about since '06, and when I realized that, look, I'm going to be in Milwaukee for the rest of my life, I might as well fashion no more on at it. And so I have quickly discovered there isn't enough help for the disabled in the fashion space. That's truly. So I'm kind of doing Wisdom of Fashion. I almost called it Butterflies of Wisdom. Get that name out of your head now. Different podcast. And I'm kind of doing Wisdom of Fashion for my own sake, but mainly to educate others about up-and-coming fashion trends and up-and-coming how the disabled could get involved.
Absolutely. Well, if I may ask you, Wynn, what do you want out of it? What inspired you to do this podcast anyway, The Wisdom of Fashion? What is the foundation of it, and what do you expect to learn, and what kind of value do you expect to add to the audience?
I expect to learn first. I expect to learn how the concepts of fashion, how these independent fashion designers are doing it. And honestly, you guys, I hope you follow my lead on this one, because all these big stores like even Marcus and Saks Fifth Avenue don't have the up-and-coming fashion designers until they're really big. But they don't have I want the little guys to stand out. I also want the little guys to help the differently abled population. So that's why I'm doing this. This is also a piece of my portfolio for school too, because I'm actually I'm very close to getting in and getting a degree in fashion journalism. So I thought, well, why not turn my love into my career?
Absolutely. And, I'm really excited that you're going after that degree. And knowing now that you're going to be, you plan on attending the San Francisco Academy of Art, right? That's where you plan on going? Correct me if I'm wrong. Where you're going?
It's going, how it's going to work is most of these schools, and this is a whole other podcast in itself, most of these schools offer online classes, but I was asking Mel how many miles he is from San Francisco, because if it comes down to it, I might have to move, because they may want me to come out there and take physical classes. But I'm going to take online classes to begin with, and then
Sure.
I might be up and moving here, because it's the online classes can only do so much, especially when you're talking about fashion and journalism. You have to be in the room with these people.
Right. If I could advise you for a moment, I highly recommend that you go to the school physically. I mean, San Francisco is a beautiful city. It's very sophisticated, very classic, very avant-garde, very modern, very retro, all of it. And it's got such great style. And I think, being around the environment, being around your peers, being around other people who are pursuing the same thing you are is a priceless opportunity. I mean, I studied Italian Renaissance art history and Royal Shakespearean literature and photography in London. And I got to tell you, I spent many hours in front of some classical works from all the artists, Masaccio all the way to Michelangelo, and going from room to room and trying to look at something that I didn't see the day before between two paintings that are the same subject that are 200 years apart from each other. You just cannot get that essence from a book or a computer screen. I would imagine in your pursuit, the feeling of a texture of a fabric, how an outfit comes together or whatever the case may be. So I'm just imagining what your syllabus would be like. To be in it would just be fantastic. And, not to mention, seeing the environment. I mean, I'm only, on a good day, 90 minutes on traffic, maybe 2 hours there from San Francisco. And then the surrounding areas that you have between Marin and Napa, South Lake Tahoe are just, it's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful place. So, hopefully you'll be able to do it, and we could definitely connect. And hey, we could do a podcast live together.
Hopefully I will.
That'd be terrific.
Eventually, hopefully I will.
Absolutely.
the clubs playing my favorite, but I'm definitely, you guys, getting online associate degree originally, and then maybe my bachelor's live in person, although the more time that you spend in school, as you all will know, the more money it costs you. So
Right.
I'm thinking that that's going to have to, I'm going to have to eventually be feeded out to your neck of the woods, because you're right. If I want to do the best job I can in fashion journalism, I'm going to have to be in the room with these people. I mean, a podcast,
Right.
you're basically, cell phone can only do so much.
That's true. So enlighten me here. Fashion journalism. Okay, so you're writing about fashion. To what capacity? I'm trying to imagine exactly how do you fit into the world of fashion exactly as a fashion journalist? What do you report on, or what do you write on?
How I'm going to use it, and I'm not sure what my beginning classes are going to be. I'll tell you guys as soon as I find out. But I'm going to use it to help. My main emphasis is to help the disabled become more fashion conscious, because what I'm realizing, and talk about branding, I'm going to share a story of a woman that I interviewed way back when. She's now a famous fashion designer, all based on gown design, and her name is Karen, and I need to have her back on one of these podcasts, actually. And she designs jeans for people with Down syndrome, because her granddaughter had Down syndrome. And I realized when I interviewed her way back when that disabled people don't have the fashion conscious, because one, they can't get into the dang clothing. That's why I wear leggings and nice top straps at the time. And two, they can't seem, especially with Down syndrome, you can't seem to find anything that fits right unless you want to spend $1 million on tailored clothes here, which I don't think we do. So how I'm going to use fashion journalism is I'm going to not only help this podcast grow, but I'm going to use it for the disabled.
Okay. Again, being innovative and pioneering as you are, you're about to add massive value to your demographic, which is fantastic. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So what else do we need to do for branding? What else, how else do we get it out there? What's the best way to get your podcast out there and gain traction with it and awareness?
Well, the best way to get it out there is get on other people's podcasts. I'm not kidding. I have seen more traction in my books and in my podcast by just sharing my story. So people ask me that all the time. New authors ask me that all the time. How do you promote your book? Same thing. How do you promote your podcast? Next Tuesday, you guys, I have an interview coming out of Sweden. They said, "Hey, Wynn, would you be an author? Would you like this interview? We're planning season 1 of our podcast, and we would like to have you on." And tomorrow I'm actually interviewing a young man. I won't give the whole story away, but basically because I said something to the effect of, I am a bionic woman on a different podcast, this program, this investor tweeted what I said in my podcast, and then I got Curiosity Killed the Cat as a journalist, and I got Curiosity Killed the Cat, and then I said, can I interview you? And of course, he said yes, and I said, he goes, how did you find me? And I said, well, you kind of tweeted a podcast interview that I did. And he goes, oh, yeah, I did. And he goes, well, I have a robot that helps feed people of all things. And so he's coming on my podcast tomorrow to explain what his robotic technology does. And that's how I got him on my podcast, by saying something to the effect of, I'm a bionic woman. So basically what I'm trying to say here is, get on other people's podcasts, produce the best content you can, and then just use feedback as lessons.
And yeah, there's power in relativity, right? There's power in being relevant in relating to your market, and cross marketing with other people, and you can really branch off from that and add a lot of value in many different ways. So, okay, I can see how that is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
when and the reason why here's another tip. When you have a person you're admiring, and the reason why I got JJ Virgin on my podcast is because she just wrote a book. So, say if you were admiring a book author who's on the New York Times, when they publish a new book, you guys grab them like there's no tomorrow. You guys get their Twitter and say, can I interview you? And 9 times out of 10, they'll say, please email my assistant, because I don't deal with my schedule. But 9 times out of 10, they'll say yes if they want to promote their new book.
Right. That's a brilliant way of doing it, right? I mean, it's, again, adding value to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. Okay.
That's how I got JJ, quite honestly. If I didn't know that she had a new book, it would have passed me by.
Excellent. That's a great tip. That's absolutely a great tip. I mean, there's fortune in the follow-up, right? It behooves you to always collaborate with others who are experts in fields that you're not.
Sure.
It's the old adage, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I mean, I'm not interested in being the smartest person in the room. I'm interested in working alongside other smart people who are just as good as me, if not better, because I want to equally, add value to them because of my expertise. So that's an awesome tip. I'm going to remember that one. I'm going to steal shamelessly on that one, Lynn, if you don't mind.
And yeah, you get. No, but seriously, if you guys admire author who's sitting on the New York Times, and 9 times out of 10, they check their Twitter or their team does. And I will tell you guys this. If I ever make it to the New York Times and able to hire a team for my social media, I will not let anyone touch my Twitter. My Twitter's me. So it's me responding, no team on my Twitter. I have decided that, and I got a very powerful interview with JJ. The feedback I received on that one has been amazing, and people sat in their cars and got to places and didn't get out of the cars because they were so fascinated by mindset and me interviewing JJ. So that's how I did it. I just asked her, I said, can I interview you? She's like, sure. I emailed my assistant, I emailed the assistant. The next thing I know, the assistant goes, let's book a date. And then I talked to the assistant. I did not talk to JJ until the end. I have JJ's personal cell phone number, but that's only because I needed it just in case something were to happen. And so I think if you guys are watching a New York Times best-selling author, and you're thinking, oh, I want to interview them, just reach out, and then they can either say yes or no. But if your content's good, that will help you. If your color scheme is good, that will help you. If you don't, this is another thing, if you don't put too many expletives in your podcast, that will help you get branding better off than if you put expletives every single time. Because iTunes is very picky when it comes to that. I know India, i.e. Bollywood, doesn't like expletives in their podcast. Even one expletive, you don't, So they're very
Are they a big audience, Lynn? Is that why? Is India, Bollywood, is that area a big audience? Is that why that is?
Yeah. It's a huge audience, but even one time they'll kick you out. And trust me, I've had guests that usually my guests are pretty good. They know the flow of my podcast. Oh, and here's another tip for you guys. Speaking of branding, if you want to get out there, I'm actually going to give you two tips in one. When you make your interviewing invite sheet, put the link to your podcast just in case someone comes on and says, I don't want to do this interview because it's not my style. Put the link to your podcast in iTunes and iHeartRadio because Androids can't listen to iTunes. And make sure you put, it's highly recommended that you listen to the podcast before you come on so you know how the interviewer goes. I mean, I've listened to people's podcasts that I've had on my podcast, so I know how their style goes. If they're going to use okay language or if they're going to use expletives, I just say, look, that's why I do it. That's why I call myself a podcast junkie, because I listen to what my audience wants. And there's another good tip. Listen to what your audience wants, and that should get you all set up for branding. And just get your story out there and just ask people. And you can be spammy. You can be, in a moment I'll say that people in the podcasting space will get mad at me, but I don't care. But you can be persistent and you can almost be stalkish, but don't be too stalkish. But as long as you get a simple and easy podcast to remember, you're going to be good as gold.
Those are excellent tips. I appreciate that. It's there's a whole lot more to it than just firing up a microphone and calling into a conference line and start talking away, right? I mean,
yeah.
I feel blessed and grateful that you and I have, I believe, great chemistry and we've worked together really well. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gone this many months with it already. But there is protocol, right? There is etiquette for sure. There are processes and steps and guidelines you want to stay or want to be successful in the podcast arena, So what else? What else do you think we need here?
And I would think, just as we talked about last time in episode 3, if you're not passionate about it, give it up.
Yeah. That's big.
If you're not passionate, and if you don't want to accept interviews, you guys, I can't help you. No podcaster who does interview show can help you, because I got into a little situation this morning where my podcast host lied to me. He said Y and Z, and X, Y, and Z turned around to bite him in the BTM, and and so we got it solved. Thank you very much. With a little bit of Wynn's wisdom, I said, "Hello, if you don't want this podcast done, you can't." He didn't want to pay. He didn't want to pay for services that were needed. Editing, thank you very much. He wanted to hand it to his editor and not pay for it, and then wonders where it is. I'm like, and then he shows to me, I've edited videos and edited podcasts before. I'm like, hello, why don't you use your skills instead of being cheap? And he's like, I'm not, said something to the effect of, I'm not penny pincher, I'm not Starbucks, I know my own limits. I'm like, yeah, next time tell me that that will help both of us. And so we got to solve. Thank you very much. Thank you, Wynn's wisdom here. But this is the first time he's ever done a podcast, and so I'm like, see, you're learning by the seat of your pants here. But if you don't want to be interviewed, then you can't get your numbers up. Then you can't share your story. So I'm sorry, you guys, but Mel and I can't help you if you don't want to be interviewed. And maybe eventually CNBC will come calling. CNN will come calling. You never know who's listening to your podcast. And so if you're too shy to be on camera, we can't help you, because you want to get your story out there. You want to get your brand out there. You want to see credible within your field.
It's funny you say that, because I've always felt that the more informal and the more conversational something is, the easier it is to flow. And you were mentioning something earlier about if you're not passionate about it, give it up. Well, passion is very, very important, and it's also a superpower. Love and the care behind it, you're already sunk in the water. You're just not going to make it. There should be a certain ease and flow, a conversation about what you do. Get up on stage.
Conversation about what you do.
Right. It's a matter of service and value. If you are passionate about what you do and what you do adds value to somebody, it isn't easy. It's incredibly easy to offer it, because all you're doing is you're giving it, right? If you think of giving to the one person who absolutely needs you instead of trying to impress the masses, it's so much easier to do. I mean, I've done over 250 Facebook Live and recorded video posts, and I didn't know I did. I just got a little notice from Facebook saying, hey, congratulations, you've done 250. And this was over, I don't know, a 20-month period. I had no idea, 18 to 20 months or something like that. And all I really wanted to do was kind of I always tell myself if I can resonate with one person only based on what I am feeling that day, or more importantly, that moment, then so be it. And I recently did a post someone had, I didn't see your morning video this morning. And people get kind of spoiled, right? Because it is one of my superpowers. And for some reason, I just didn't have it. And I thought, well, I don't have it today. And I learned a while back that when you don't have it, don't force it. My God.
Don't.
You know what I mean? Don't force it, because people are smart. People are intelligent. And mind you, you are going to struggle and you're not going to flow, and you're going to beat yourself up over it because you didn't do well, right? It was horrible. Right?
Yeah.
So, anyway, yeah, just be passionate about it. And the easiest way to be passionate about something is just to share it and to give it, and know that if there's at least one person in the world that could feel great about what you're giving, then it's worth it. If you can't get past that, forget about it. It's not going to happen.
Forget about it. Forget about it. And
right.
This podcast, well, what is today? Today is Monday. This podcast will be out on Wednesday, so by the time you guys hear this, but Wisdom of Fashion, I almost called it my old name of this podcast, Wisdom of Fashion will already be launched and already be out in the podcasting space. So make sure you subscribe to the little red shoes, as we call it, and it says Wisdom of Fashion on the dang logo. So I will, if you wanna get Brandon, and if you want to get known, just do it really well and do your logo really well. And one of the logos I really like, which he's done really well with his podcast, is Entrepreneur on Fire, E.O. Fire. That's John Lee Dumas's podcast. And no, yours truly hasn't been on E.O. Fire, but John has come on my podcast, and the numbers he gave me were absolutely amazing on how he's landed his podcast and how it's really come back to help him and help him make a company out of it. But that's why he's done so well, is because he's given over 1,000 interviews. And so if you want to be really known in your space, please give interviews. And also, if you are up and coming fashion designer, join the disabled party over here, and we would love to have you, and we would love to understand how you're going to help the next generation of disabled, because more and more babies, unfortunately, are getting diagnosed with cerebral palsy. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm going to get the numbers, and I think over 1,000 babies are getting diagnosed. That's the last numbers I got off Google, but I'm going to ask someone in medical field how many kiddos are getting diagnosed with cerebral palsy, so that you can help them, because we need help. We need help from young toddlers close to adults. I mean, I'm sitting here in a pair of leggings and a nice top, and that's how I roll, and that's what I've been rolling in ever since I could walk. And basically, this is how I rolled when I was young. Basically, my mom's mom knit me baby shoes, because they had no baby shoes to fit my tiny little feet. Now, granted, we need help. We need help in this industry, and that's why I share that story. Not only because I love my mom's mom, who recently passed away, but we need help in this industry when it comes to fashion, because I don't want anyone else sitting in this, you dealing with what my parents had to go through and my family had to go through, and then knit the grandchild's shoes on top of it. That's like, okay, but that's how the passion and family I have. But at the same time, we need help in this industry because, as I said, more and more kids are getting diagnosed with cerebral palsy at late ages too, like 2 years old, when not meeting their milestones, and then their parents wonder what's wrong with my child, and they take them for battery a test, and then the test comes back as AKA CP or cerebral palsy or Down syndrome, and it's like, really? So we need help in this industry, you guys. We definitely need help fashion-wise because I wanna make the disabled feel confident on the inside and out. And the first impression for anyone is how the way you dress. So that's to talk about marketing too. It's the first impression of when you walk into a business meeting. If you're wearing a T-shirt, people are not going to take you seriously.
Right. No, it's true. That's true.
If you don't brand yourself in the way you want to represent your company, people are not going to take you seriously.
Right. Right. There's, image plays a big part in it for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great information today. Awesome information today for sure. I'm going to apply a lot of it.
I try. And Mel, how would you like to close this episode out?
Like I said, lots of great information today. I'm walking away with quite a bit. It all really kind of comes back to your passion again. When you are passionate and you really love what you do and you can share it, the creativity behind it really just comes out of you. You don't have to think about it too much. You can try to come up with different names and whatnot, and the creativity behind that is, I don't want to say it's effortless, but it sure flows a lot better. If you're not really into what you're doing, and you're not into it 100%, there's just no way you're going to come out and produce the best product that you can. So anyway, I'm looking forward to Wisdom of Fashion. I'm looking forward to putting my own podcast together, and I'm walking away with tremendous value from today. So thank you, Whit.
Well, you're welcome, and I hope that helps. And this mini-series isn't only for new podcasters, it's for the seasoned podcasters as well who just need help. And so I think that's about for today. And by the time you guys hear this podcast, Wisdom of Fashion will be out, and I will be one step closer to my journalism degree, and I will read on air what they sent me once I get into journalism. But this podcast may be newbie closer to Mel than people think, because as I said, if you want to be a strong brand, you have to beat where the branding is. And I am super blessed that they offer classes online, but as we talked about, seeing fabric, touching fabric, and just interviewing the up-and-coming fashion designers is going to be my passion. In fact, I wrote a teen novel about it, thinking that this was going to stay in my teen novel, The View from My Hills, and I didn't realize that this when my dream career would actually come true. So be careful what you wish for him. And so we appreciate you guys supporting us, and I hope you subscribe to Little Red Shoes on iTunes, and then once we get the Wisdom of Fashion set up, we will I will put it in Stitcher so the androids of the world don't feel jealous. And so we appreciate your feedback. We appreciate your support, and we also appreciate your feedback. Yet I haven't set up a Google call-in number for the Wisdom of Fashion. Maybe I'll do that. And yes, I have to teach myself how to edit. So, yeah, that's going to be my next project, teaching myself how to edit after writing and podcasting without editing and writing. So enough of me rambling, enough of Mel rambling, and we will catch you guys later. Bye, you guys.
Thank you. Take care.